Okay, Dan here from Hardwood Hollow's Beyond Bushcraft Skills channel. Thing that I'm going to go ahead and give you the weight on right now. Now I want to point out that this Condor Fuel Pack I've had, like I said, for 2 years. It is right now what's not in it is any type of food or water that I carry. It has a 2-liter bladder. There's the hose for the bladder. I took the hose off of the bladder that came with it, and I put it onto a bladder that I already had, which is 2 liters. The one that came with it was actually 2.5 liters, but I switched out for this other bladder because the plastic that this bladder is made from, that it came with, the Condor bladder, does in fact leave a nasty taste in the water if you leave the water in it for too long, even when refrigerated. This one is a PBA-free bladder. I picked it up from Walmart. It doesn't leave any taste in the water, and I've left the water in it for weeks at a time. I would come home for from a hike, I just refill it, throw it in the refrigerator, down in the crisper drawer, and I just leave it there. And then when I was ready for my hike, I'd pull it out, throw some ice in it, and off for my hikes I'd go. So let me go ahead and move all this other stuff out of the way. I'll reset everything, and then we'll go through the gear that I have in this bag. Okay, starting with the straps, I added these 2 Grim locks, and they help control the hose. The hose is kind of long. I hate the hose knocking me on the back, so on the offside strap, on the offside of the sternum strap, I have another Grim lock, and this Grim lock serves 2 purposes. The first is where it's sitting when I'm hiking, I can leave it open and I can just hook that hose in there, so it controls that hose, keeps it right up in front of me, so when I need a drink I can just pull it up. It's right there in front of me. The Condor bladder is nice because it has a protective cap that snaps on to keep your bite valve nice and clean. It also has a secondary valve right here. So right now it's in the on position, so I'd be able to squeeze the bite valve and drink water. I just noticed my bite valve has developed a crack, so I'll have to see about purchasing a new valve for it. A new bite valve replacement of the bite valve is very easy, which also makes it fast to empty the bladder, because you push that button, the bite valve pops right out. That rubber should be easy to get. Just snaps right back in there, and the cover goes on it. So like I said, I rescued this from the Condor bladder, and then I went ahead and heat sealed it, heated it up to melt the tubing so that it would go over this head. And then when I did that, I also went ahead and heat shrunk it to give it a little extra strength right here where it's going to be being used and flexed a lot. And that works great. I told you that this bite valve, this Grim lock serves 2 purposes. The other purpose is for this buck knife that I have on here. This is a homemade Kydex sheath, and I added a small ferro rod. I believe this ferro rod this is the Proforce ferro rod. It was gifted to me by Bushcraft Woods Devil, and if you get a chance, go check out his channel. He does some nice product reviews, some good knife reviews and whatnot. He gifted that to me. I purchased this buck knife over in West Virginia. It was actually at a gift shop for the campground. I think I paid $40 for it. It is the buck model 390-1. So 390-1, made in the USA. That is, I believe, a 3-inch blade, 3 1/4. Overall length is 7 3/4. This camo handle is actually kind of rubbery underneath the camo. It's almost too short, but it's got enough sculpting and shape in it that it fits the hand really well. It's got some jimping on the top of the blade up here for your thumb to rest on. It becomes very comfortable. And then just ahead of the jimping, I ground a 90-degree edge as well as coming back over the top of the jimping just a little bit. And because of the size of this little tiny ferro rod, which is only like an 1/8 inch rod, whether I get under that 90-degree point or more correctly, if I get into the jimping where I've cleaned the jimping out, the jimping does a really good job of throwing sparks off this little tiny rod. So I designed the sheath so that it would fit onto this pack strap, and then it can also be swapped over to molly gear with this molly clip right here. And so I can take this screw out, pull this strap off, slide it through here, and then it's on molly gear. Excuse me. Still have my allergies here. And then I added to the bottom of the knife, because it hangs upside down, this piece of cordage, paracord here with a cord lock that goes on to that that grim lock there. Now if I'm not running my hydration in this pack, if I'm just carrying it as an EDC, I'll close that grim lock, and that way that's not coming out. But with that cord lock, I can tighten it enough that it stays inside the hook when I'm using it to contain my my hydration hose there. Okay, overall this pack has been very amazing over the years. Like I said, I've had it for 2 full years. I'm going to go ahead and pull the bladder out of here. And the way you do that, you flip the straps upside down so that they're facing forward like that. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pull the hose back. Now when it gets to this point, you have to pick it up here and kind of work that valve through very carefully. And then inside here you have 2 straps with Velcro to contain your bladder. So we'll go ahead and pull that bladder out. Like I said, this is the Walmart branded bladder, and it has a quick detachable hose connection right down here. So again, on this side, because it's under less stress, I didn't do the heat shrink on top of it, but I just heated this hose up with a heat gun, slid it over this fitting, and then let it cool, and it works great. Pull that back, snap it in there, and you're good to go. It's got a large fill cap. Not sure the point of this guy right here, but they call it easy fill. I think so. It's if you're hooking it over a faucet, this little tab is supposed to catch the edge of the faucet so you can let go and it'll kind of hang itself. I just pull it open, and I've got a water filter on my faucet at the house, so I just hang on to it and fill it that way. This actually gets in the way for me because I always put ice in here. I just haven't gotten around to snipping it out with my my pliers yet. So we'll put that aside. Always remember when you're done using your bladder to let it air out well, even if it says that these bladders are, you know, so a lot of them contain antimicrobial material, chemicals right in the plastic. A really fast, simple way. Not as good when you have the hose cover on, but you can actually take your hose, put a loop in your hose like this, slide it down inside your bladder, and it'll actually open up the inside of your bladder like this. You can see it's got some thickness to it. It'll open up the inside of your bladder and let that bladder dry out properly. When I do this, especially if I have the cover on, before I ever use it, I'll put it about half full of water, put maybe a cap full of bleach in there, shake it up really good, let it soak for a while to get rid of the bleached flavor and neutralize the acid in the bleach. I do the same procedure 2 more times with a couple of capfuls of white vinegar. And then just rinse it with clear water, fill it, and you're ready to go. So we'll have the bladder in there, so we'll set that aside. And then this is really the only thing in the pack that I have seen that's coming undone, and that is it has 2 of these straps in here for holding the top of the bladder. This one is just literally being held on by one little thread right here. This one is still stitched real well. Let's see if I can get us in closer on that. So right here, it's literally just being held by a thread. If I was to give it a good tug, it'd probably come right out. I'm not going to do that. At some point I'll get in there and just hand stitch it back in place, but at this point it's not important. Also in this backpack, what I have done is right here where this top piece is of nylon webbing, I've gone ahead and tied a piece of paracord to it, and that got tucked in through the hose routing area. I did the same thing on this side. So I now have two straps right there that I can pull out, and by pulling these out from here, I can pull these to the front, and now I have a place where I can tie something onto the top of the pack. So I could literally tie these around something, say a sleeping pad. Say I find some foam out in the woods or something, or even just I'm going to carry this as a camping pack. I could get, you know, a sleeping pad, whatever. We'll just grab this rag right here to simulate a sleeping pad, and I can lay this on top, tie it off right here with both of these straps, and then to keep these straps from coming undone, I can actually take these down to the front this way and tie them off to the molly down here. And that way it pulls the pad away from the back of my head, so it's not hitting me in the back of the head, and it's lashed down. Or, you know, anything else I need to lash. I can, you know, I have that extra cordage, or it can just be removed. The cordage can be removed and used for whatever I want. So that covered. Another gift from Bushcraft Woods Devil are these Ranger beads, and I've gone ahead and connected them right here with just a cable tie. The particular cable tie I used is supposed to be able to be screwed into the material you're going to tie the cable down with. So I just use that one, and that gives me actually another little anchor point. If I had you know, like a small carabiner or something I wanted to hook through there, I could do it. What I like to do is I trim the piece off flush with nippers, hit it with a file or some sandpaper to flatten it, and then if it's something I don't intend on ever removing, I'll put a drop of crazy glue or a drop of hot glue in there, and that'll prevent that from ever coming undone on its own. So if you don't know how to use Ranger beads, they're very useful for both keeping track of your distance, or if I'm doing an exercise hike, hydration is whenever you're out is extremely important. The old adage of that Camelback puts out there, their old motto of hydrate or die, is absolutely true and important. So what I use these for mostly these days is I'll count cadence while I'm walking, and every 300 paces I'll move a lower bead, and then I stop and I take 2 to 3 large mouthfuls of water, and then I start over counting it from 1 again, and the next 300 paces I move a second bead down, and then I stop and take 2 to 3 paces, swallows of water, good sized swallows of water. Very helpful. And then once I get through all of these beads, the lower beads, then I have the upper beads that I can go through. And then when I get to my turnaround point, then I reset everything and start over again. Just something simple that I do, but it makes sure and it guarantees that I'm drinking enough fluid. Okay? Since we're on the back, inside of this hydration pouch, I have a couple of things. I'll go ahead and pull those out. I have 4 cable ties in there, 2 very heavy ones. These are like 1/4 inch wide or better, maybe 3/8 cable ties. And They are, yep, 3/8. And then I have two smaller ones. The smaller ones are 10-inch long. Actually, there's 3 of the small ones. And then the big ones, those are probably 20 inches long, 18 to 20. 21. So some cable ties, nothing else in there. Inside there I had this Ziploc bag. The Ziploc bag has a 55-gallon trash can liner in it, an extra fresh 1-gallon bag, and a couple of quart-size Ziploc bags. And these are all Ziploc freezers bags, and they're in a 1-gallon Ziploc freezer bag. So, you know, water containers, you can use them to make a water purification system out in the woods. We'll spin it around and we'll get covered what I have on the front. I have this carabiner. It's made by ITW, the same company that makes the Grimlocks. All I have is just a stainless steel 20-ounce water bottle, and it's just got a little wimpy plastic thing to hold the cap on, which I don't even really use because I rarely drink out of this thing. It's more there just for emergency purposes. So I tied a paracord piece around here, and that's what I use to hang it from this Grimlock carabiner. Now if I have to use that carabiner for anything else, there's enough cordage left over here that I can tie it on. Additionally, on the front, I have a couple of pieces of paracord tied on here, and these also can be unlatched, untied, and I can lash stuff to the bottom. Or the other thing that I use them for is, and that's where this carabiner comes in, is I can unhook these, and they're just looped. They have a loop tied into the top, and I take this cord and I tie it around a tree, and then when I get it around the tree, I have the eye of the loop facing the front, and then I'll take that carabiner and I'll put the back of the pack up against the tree, and it hooks in like this. So you hook the loop onto the carabiner first, and then that loop is tied to your tree, and then you hook the carabiner to your pack, and now you can have your pack up off the ground, hanging off the tree, easy to access. I can open any compartment on here that I need to get into very easily, with the exception of this back compartment where the hydration bladder is. Other than that, it's very easy. So that stays snapped to the front along with the another shorter one, and then just a small piece of scrap I had laying around. I just tied it on there for the heck of it. Okay, let's move on to the side here. It did have a small waist belt. The waist belt for this pack was almost useless for the amount of weight in the pack, and it was a very thin, just a, well, you can see it's 1.5 inch wide strap there. So I was never going to use the waist belt on it, so I took the waist belt off. The waist belt honestly was a little too short. I keep this S-beaner on here, and I am a profuse sweater. So what I'll do is I'll have a couple of extra ball caps hanging from this. Normally my normal hiking hat is a boonie hat, but sometimes I'll have extra ball caps or an extra boonie hat, and I just take, and where the strap is on the back there, I just snap it into that S-beaner, and that way it's hanging on the back of my pack, it's out of the way, and while I'm walking, it's allowed to dry out, so that when I swap out hats, I'll have a dry hat to put on. So that's there. Now we've got a side pocket here. I'll open this side pocket here. I've got, this was a 100-foot hank. It's probably about 75 feet now because I've used some of the cord out of it. I have it melted on both sides, rolled up nice so it's controlled. And then I have a couple of Cyalume sticks here. You got to remember that your Cyalume sticks do have an expiration date. They're normally stamped on here somewhere. Okay, this one says expires 11 of 2017. So I've got another year on these. They will still work after that time, but they will be diminished in strength. Over time they will diminish completely, and they will give you no light. So there's a matching pocket on the opposite side, and in that pocket I have this baggie, which has there's 5 AA batteries in there. I've got some Purell. Why I have 5 instead of 6, I don't know, because my light uses 2 of them. Oh, because I have a secondary small light that I often carry right here, which is from Streamlight. I'm sorry, from Energizer, and it uses 1 battery. So that's why I have the odd battery. Handy little light. It has a cutoff switch, so by taking that battery cap, turning it back a quarter of a turn, all the lights are disengaged, they don't work. Tighten it back down. You have red light on the front, 3 brightnesses, and then you have an ultraviolet light, 1 brightness. You have a green flasher on top. Now originally this light, it's a beacon light, originally this light, you can see the slot on the back. I'm trying to get new hardware for it. It had a clamp so that you can clamp it onto a ball cap. I actually used to, sometimes if I was hiking, I would actually clamp it to my, my sternum strap right here, so that because the clip gave it the ability to angle, I could actually have the light in the center of my chest shining out onto the trail rather than being over my head. And then of course it has a white light, also 3 brightnesses, and so it's a great little light. I have the partner to it is inside. I'll show you. So I've got the Purell, I've got a little vial of lamp oil, and then I've got Maxi DEET, which is from Sawyer, and this particular one is 99% DEET, so it will keep the bugs away. So that fits down in the side here, and remember, you know, the lamp oil is, you know, to help with starting fires. Of course, your Purell can be used to help start fires, but it can also be used to purify anything. It hurts like hell, but you can use the Purell to treat wounds. So, you got that. Now, let's go to the front compartment here, the top compartment. This is actually a can be an electronics or compartment as well, because it has this foamy material. Foam, that fuzzy material inside, so that it's kind of like the soft side of Velcro, but you can put glasses and optics and whatnot in there. You can put a smartphone, whatever you want in there, and it'll keep it safe. It's a pretty deep pocket. I can get my entire hand in it. I've got a roll of 1-inch Gorilla Tape in there. Chapstick, useful for all kinds of things. You know, aside from just lips, it's wax, so it's flammable. If you have a tent or shelter that has a small hole in it, you can actually take this and rub it over the hole, and it'll seal that hole. Same thing if you've got shoes or boots that have are leaking water. You can actually rub this on your boots, and it will seal your boots. The lamp oil, while flammable, can actually do the same thing. I can put the lamp oil on my boots. The flammable part of the lamp oil will evaporate and just leave the oil behind, which will help seal the leather of your boots. Lighter, of course. Don't need to explain the Bic lighter. I've got a roll of first aid tape here. That's just cotton cloth first aid tape. Nice thing about the cotton first aid tape, it's flammable. I haven't tried this duct tape, but most duct tape is flammable also. And then I had an older package of Neosporin. Great for all the usual things you'll use Neosporin for, but on top of it, it's petroleum jelly based, ergo flammable. Mix a little bit of that onto the cotton tape. You've got yourself basically a cotton soaked petroleum jelly soaked cotton ball. 100% cotton bandana, Don't need to go into all the uses for that. You know, everyone's got them. Now, because I have a first aid kit on the inside, I've gone ahead and put my patches here so that people know there is first aid in here. So I got my first aid patch, my blood type patch. Now let's get into this front compartment here. There's many pockets inside of here. So we'll go ahead and, well, I shouldn't say many, there's a couple of pockets. So go ahead and open it up. Leather gloves, you never go wrong. Always have a pair of leather gloves. Grabbing hot things that you're cooking, processing wood, what have you, just helps prevent you from getting injured. If you're bushwhacking in the woods, rather than on an established trail, or if the trail is overgrown, put these doggone things on, help you pushing branches and whatnot out of the way. Just remember, if you use them to grab anything like poison ivy or poison oak, the grain of the leather will hold that urush oil, which is the chemical compound in poison oak, poison ivy, and poison sumac. It will hold that. So you'll want to wash them just like you would your clothing in soap and water when you get home. And be careful handling them, because you will get, you can transfer that urush oil back onto your skin. These also have a padded knuckle. And because of the way they're built, the backs have, while they have mesh, they have a little bit of foam in there, so they will actually keep my hands a little bit warm. Here's the flashlight that I told you that is the backup flashlight to this little one. And this flashlight uses 2 AA batteries. And then it has a lockout function, so when it's in the lockout function, nothing works. It's got a tail cap switch, and it's got the switch up here. So it's got the tail cap switch, it's got 3 buttons across the top right here, and then it's got this switch. So this switch, when you go into the UV mode, it activates the UV light, and then I can push the tail cap and hold the tail cap, and the UV light goes into flash strobe mode. Okay, if I move it over to the unlock mode, then it gives me the white light, which, like the other one, has 3 brightnesses. Then it gives me a blue light, 3 brightnesses, red light, 3 brightnesses, and green light, 3 brightnesses. Something to know about these 3 lights is if you activate all of them concurrently, they work very well to help you locate blood in the woods. Now, any of the lights that you have on, if you switch the orange button right here to lockout mode, all of the lights go off and it resets it. And so you've got your white light. Now when your white light is on, the other lights will come on as well. And again, click it to lockout mode and they all go off. The only thing that can be used when the switch is in the UV mode is the UV light. That's essentially a lockout. So, great little light. And it has a metal clip on the back, which can be clipped on. It's not an exceptionally strong clip, but it can be clipped on to things, pack straps, jacket, whatever. If you had to, you could put it upside down and clip it to your ball cap like that. When it's clipped on to the front of your strap or what have you, it actually has an angleable head. So you push the button on the side, the head can angle 90 degrees so that it'll shine forward. You just have to make sure it's in, unlock mode, and there you go. 90-degree light. Push the button, rotate it up. Okay, put it back in lockout mode. This is the CRKT Eaton tool. This is the XL, the extra long version. Of course, it gives you the spork on the tip. This is a little bit wider than the normal, wider spoon than the small Eaton tool. Of course, it's got your can opener right here for opening your food cans, It's got a little wrench, got a bottle opener there. This is a little pry blade right here, which can also act as a screwdriver. So there are a few little tools built in there. It's laser etched with the wrench sizes right there. Excuse me. Little handy thing to have. Multi-tool. This is an older Kershaw. It was one of the first ones I ever saw that had the external blade. That's a partially serrated blade, 50-50 blade. Depending on what tools you're using, it actually has a lock. So you can close it, lock that down. If you're using the knife from the outside, then it's locked in straight, tight, and it cannot open on you. And that is a liner lock blade. So unlocking the little thing there, which the tab slides out of the way, and it's got a detent to hold it in place. You have a number of other tools on the inside. So you've got a metal saw blade. You have a wood file blade or a metal file blade with 2 grits, one on each side. You have a can opener, and then you have a Phillips head screwdriver right here. The other thing about these pliers, you'll notice they're needle nose. See that bolt right there? These are actually locking pliers, like vice grips. And of course they have the obligatory wire cutter in here. Kershaw discontinued this model. It was having problems with these rivets breaking out, so I don't use it for hardcore stuff, but as an extra one, I just throw it in this pack. It's got a lot of good tools on it, and that it works good for. Why it doesn't have a flat screwdriver, I haven't figured that one out yet. I suppose worst case scenario, you could use the tip. If it was a wide screw, you could probably use the tip of the files as a screw. Oh, I'm sorry. Duh. It does. Flat screwdriver blade. See, that's how long I've been since I had it out. They are not locking, but the way you lock them out is by locking this down and then bringing that lock into play, and they're now locked in place. So they go from friction to locked. So we'll go ahead and fold that back up, open it, fold that blade. We'll set that aside. Now, in this mesh compartment here, we'll unzip that mesh compartment, and in there I have 2 things. This is a space blanket tube tent. So you can use it as a tube tent, you can use it as a sleeping bag. The way you use it as a sleeping bag is it's a one solid tube, so you would just take this cordage to use it as a sleeping bag, cinch one end down, tie it off with the cordage so that the bottom is closed, and then you can slide inside of it. Got to remember, not breathable, so once you're inside of it, you will start to sweat, and then you're going to get cold. So be careful. As a tube tent, you just take the cordage that's included with it. You string that you string it through the tube tent first, string it between 2 trees, and then you can go ahead and climb inside. You want to put some padding down, and then you can also get some foliage, tree branches or whatever, to leaves to cover up the ends. Good thing to have there. The other thing I have in here is I've got a Sharpie, I've got a regular pen, I've got some paper. The paper I have is actually just a post-it note pad that I had, and then I have a lens cleaning cloth and a couple of, I think I have 4 lens cleaning pads in there. In case you don't know, those lens cleaning pads basically use alcohol to clean your lenses. So what does that mean? It means they're flammable, as is the paper, which is sealed inside of this Ziploc bag. So that's what's in this mesh pouch. And one more thing, the absolute best matches in the world for survival. These are like a match and kindling all wrapped in one. You can see there's 25 matches in here. To give you an idea how long these matches are, this is a 3 1/4 inch long box. And that's how long the matches is, just under 3 1/4 inches. There's a striker on the side, on each side, and there's a little baggie here with striker on each side, and there's a baggie in here with extra strikers that can be used, and they're sealed inside plastic so they'll be kept dry. So even if the box gets wet, it is already sealed inside of the extra strikers are sealed inside of plastic. And you can see there's almost 2 inches of burn material on these matches. And they're all, the entire match and the stick is completely sealed. These things burn so well you can actually light one, stick it down into water, pull it out, and it'll keep burning. It'll reignite itself. And what I have up here is this little baggie has some MRE toilet paper. Again, if you don't need it for toilet paper, it's kindling. I have a compass in there, and then I have a large piece, I think an 18-inch long piece of heavy-duty aluminum foil. Many, many uses for that. I carry a saw in here. This folding saw, is a model from Steel, the chainsaw company. It's got a thumb lock on the top. The blade is locked. I believe this is an 8-inch cutting edge. 6.5. Sorry. I believe they have an 8-inch version. So this is 6.5. And let me tell you, you can see this has seen some use already. I've cut quite a bit with it, and this little thing will rip through stuff like a chainsaw. I've actually cut through stuff up to or near 6 inches in diameter, and it goes through it like it's not even there. Phenomenal, phenomenal folding saw. A little on the heavier side because of the weight of plastic in the handle. It's not a hollow handle, but doggone it, this thing cuts like crazy. I would recommend these any day of the week. I'm not going to compare them to, say, a Baco or whatever. I've never used a Baco. I've used some of the Coleman's and whatnot. Right now, this is my go-to saw. Okay. We all know what the life straw is. You'll notice there's no marking on this life straw. This was actually originally the life straw drink bottle. The problem I had with it is that the lid would not stay on the drink bottle. I'd drop the thing, bang it against something, and the lid would pop right off the bottle, and then you'd lose the top and the filter, or you'd get it dirty. So what I chose to do is I took the cap from the bottle and ground all of the plastic away from the cap. There's an O-ring inside. You don't want to lose that O-ring. There's silicone O-rings, so they last a long time. This is a flip top, and you can drink right from it. And when you let go, the bite valve closes, and it prevents or slows the water from flowing back down through the filter. So the way I use it is I go ahead and this is another place where your chapstick can come in handy. Put a little bit of chapstick on there and it'll protect those O-rings. So I keep it on there, and then utilizing this water bottle, if I'm not going to be, or don't have the ability to boil the water, I'll take the cap off this, fill it with water, drop the straw down in there, the life straw down in there, and rather than having to lean over the water source and try and drink from it, I can just dip this water bottle in there, stick that in there, and then I can drink directly from the straw safely and get filtered water. Another reason I didn't explain why I usually have this hanging on the front of the pack is that when this is hanging on the front, where I hike, it's often bear country. So by hanging this off the front of the pack, I can take something like my Eaton tool, take a piece of this like this little scrap paracord here, lash it on there, lash it tight because you don't want to lose it. See, I did it. I did a granny knot instead of a square knot. So lash it on there good. Now as I'm walking, it's going to create a rattle, and that'll help scare off the bears in the area that I'm hiking. I also take one of these. I take the short lanyard off of here, and I always carry a spare ring of keys. So I'll take my keys, my spare keys here, and I've got them on a paracord lanyard, and I put a key ring in the end of it. And I'll just take the short lanyard here, run it through the key ring, tie it to my belt, and then I can take these out of my pocket, and they'll sit there and they'll rattle against my leg while I'm walking. So some good tricks there. That's all I got in that pocket. So we'll get into my main compartment. I just got a couple snacks in here, some quick sugar. The mint in these is really good. Just a quick, good pick-me-up. This is good, some good salt. Just make sure when you're eating something like these crackers, especially, you got to have some water with them, or they're going to dry you out quick. I usually will have some meat sticks, jerky. In addition, maybe depending on how long I'm going to be out, I might throw in a ramen noodle or who knows what. So, but I always have enough food to sustain me for a couple of days. This is my trauma pack, my IFAK. Not going to go into too much detail into it, but there's a lot of things in there. Your quick clots, that sort of thing. This is a rip-off type. I don't have it had a moly piece. If I'm hooking it to another pack that has moly on the outside, I'll go ahead and put its holder on there, stick it to it, and then once it's on there, I'll take these two patches and they fit right on this loop panel on here, and then they'll be on the outside of whatever whatever other pack I'm using. Also have a tourniquet. This is the Rat's tourniquet. A lot of people out there questioning whether, you know, how good it is compared to some of the other tourniquets. I figure it's 15 bucks versus 35 for other tourniquets, and having a tourniquet that's slightly less efficient than another tourniquet is better than having no tourniquet. Enough said on that. We'll get into this in a minute. So additionally, I have my shemagh, just a standard plain desert shemagh. Back in here, for a little bit of redundancy, I got these as a sample at Costco. I thought they were great to throw in here. Some big Bounty paper towels. I think there's 4 or 5 sheets in there, and they're the select size, so you've got quite a few there, and you know, clean up, food preparation, whatever. That's there. This bag I've got, in addition to the duct tape, I've got some a little bit of 2-inch wide electrical tape. This is a small fire starting kit that a friend of mine gave me. So it's got 2 pieces of fat wood, it's got some jute, it's got a little pocket knife, a piece of crystal, and of course the striker. And then in the very bottom, there's actually some char cloth down there. So a lot of things tucked in this little box. The stone it came with didn't have any sharp edges on it left anymore. I found this one in the woods. It fits in the box just fine, and I can get some pretty good sparks off of it. And then I have my magnesium match. Super important. This is the Doan sparking bar by Coughlin's. I highly recommend you have one of these. This is going to be almost always one of your best fire starting methods in the woods. But again, always have an extra striker bar, because these are not known to be the best ferro rods attached to it. They're pretty small. So on that note, I also have my Bear Grylls fire starter, and that's got a nice sized rod and striker, and puts out some good sparks. And then it also has a little compartment on here that you can pull out, and there's a little piece of cotton there. Got a lot of cotton on the table. I just had to double check to make sure I didn't start anything. Oh, and then the Bear Grylls, where it fits together here, it's got a little cable lock, and their little cable lock is actually a emergency whistle. So there's that too. I added the paracord. It had a small piece of cordage with it. It was chintzy cord, so I swapped it out for real paracord. Made it longer, so you can easily use both halves without cutting the having to undo the paracord and risk losing part of it. Okay, down here I also have my 18-ounce cup, so that I can cook if I need to, boil water, what have you. This very colorful cover is a rain fly that will fit over this pack. The pack did not come with a rain fly. This came with another pack that I had from VOD, also a good pack. It's actually a mountain biking pack, but I use this all the time to cover this pack. If I'm walking on the road, it's good to make me a lot more visible. It's got drain holes in the bottom, so if water does get into it, it'll drain out. And then it's got adjustable cord locked elastic at the top to adjust it. What I like to do is on the back of my pack where I've got the lift strap, I'll run this elastic through the little hang strap and tie it off just to make sure that it does not come off the top of my pack, because that's the most important. So, little handy thing to do. And then inside here I've got migraine formula Excedrin, generic Excedrin. And then this is just a mixture of Tylenol, Motrin, and I have a hard time sleeping, so I actually have some Benadryl in here as well. I've got some Pepsid. I've got a couple of extra allergy pills. I take allergy medication. So this is just a mishmash of different medications. So that's everything that I'm carrying right now. Like I said, that excludes water and food. And when that's in here, this pack is everything you see right here is 11.5 pounds. Add a little over 2 liters of water that bladder will hold, and we're sitting right at plus the food, and I'm sitting just under 15 pounds usually, right around or just a smidge under 15 pounds. So, like I said, overall impressions of the fuel. One of my complaints of the fuel that I'd like to see them address is to, it's got this torso pad here, or lumbar pad, and then, excuse me, this is supposed to be a channel to channel the give you airflow. The problem with it is it's not very effective, especially when you get the bladder in there. The bladder, because it sets right here, pushes it out this way, so it closes that channel completely. This foam doesn't it's an open foam. It's not a closed cell foam, so it will soak up sweat, and this all gets very, very wet, especially when you're a sweater like I am. So I would like to see them make this foam a little bit thicker, maybe twice as thick as it is, and make it closed cell foam so it won't soak up your sweat. And then maybe even make a usable waist belt that has, some padding that comes out here, like this, that's maybe, 2.5, 3 inches wide, maybe 2.5 would be good. Coming around to the front, and then have an actual, have the belt, the buckle snap in the front, and actually be able to support the weight. The addition of some moly on the sides here, say on this back panel here, moly coming down this side or down here, which would allow you to lash things to the side. I have a walking stick that I like to carry. I don't always use it for walking, but I like to have it with me. It would be really handy to be able to lash it on here. Other than that, it's been a great pack. I would like to see, though, that the hydration pouch, maybe make this pouch just a little bit wider and have a separate pouch. In fact, you can put a second hydration bladder inside here, but there's no ports from in here for the strap to come out. So you actually have to bring it out through the zipper and then take it down over your shoulder. These are not locking zippers, so what I like to do is, we'll zoom her back in here. What I like to do is it has the plastic stays on the top of the zipper. So I'll take and tuck one through the other, and once it's through, I'll open it again, tuck it through a second time, and that effectively acts as a lock to keep these zippers. They'll open about an inch, inch and a half, but they won't open all the way, and that works really good to protect the zipper from opening. They've installed the zippers upside down so that they are water repellent, because if you flip it up you can see the zipper here, so they have that kind of water repellent edge, but they're not waterproof. A storm flap would be nice over the zippers. But overall, you know, like I said, making it maybe, I can't remember what it said the cubic inches of this pack was. Like I said, it was 2 years ago. If you go back and look at my original video, it'll probably tell. But overall, great pack. Like I said, I'd like to see it a little bit bigger. Actually, a little extra padding in the straps wouldn't be bad either. And having an elastic shock section on the strap. What a lot of them will do is they'll fold the strap over multiple times like this, stitch it lightly, and then they'll put a piece of elastic behind it so that it's allowed to stretch a little bit and not just shock on your chest if you snag on something or what have you. But again, I do really like the pack. I use it both for a hiking pack and as an EDC pack. It might be the pack I use when I go into the hospital here for my surgery, just to carry my stuff in. Great pack for the price. I want to say that the suggested retail on it was not much more than 50 bucks. I'm pretty sure you can find the Condor Fuel all day long on Amazon for around 50 bucks or eBay. So, all right. This video's gone longer than I wanted, but that's the update on the Condor Fuel. And y'all have a great day.